Today you're going to find out everything you need to know about finding the best light at different budgets with all the little things that you need to think about. I'm going to break it down to you in the easiest way possible. Who am I? Hi, I'm Zulf. I live stream on Reddit, LinkedIn Live, Amazon Live and YouTube. I make loads of content online and I found the best setup for me. What am I going to do? I'm going to share all my best tips with you to help you find out how to light your setup with actual examples. I'm going to show you diagrams of how to place lights in different situations. I'm going to show you cheap lights and how they look and how you can improve your lighting setup. So I've cut out all the fluff. This is going to be a straightforward course to help you sort out your lighting. If you got a little lower budget, under $100, I've got you covered. If you're looking to spend a mid-level budget, under $500, I've got you covered. By the end of this course, you're going to be able to look at the best lights for your purpose and your lighting situation. You're going to be able to set them up in a way that makes you look really good in your video presentation, for video recording, for lighting, for vlogging. Everything will be covered. So make sure you enroll on the course and I'll see you in the next section. So types of lights will be very important. Providing you know what the plan is, there's loads of light options out there. I'll talk you through a few options to help you decide which will be the best one for you. So it's always nice to see the various options available and then we can see how we can fit them to your requirements. So let's have a look at a few different budget options. So first up, I'm going to show you something that most people will tend to use. This is along the lines of a normal ring light. So you get a part of it as a kit. If you're using a mobile phone, you can actually put your mobile phone inside that light and you can position it. Now you need to define how well you want your light situation to look. Lighting can always be improved. You can spend time positioning the lights in the position for your room and your environment, but normally having multiple lights makes it more professional, and having the 3 light setup that we're going to talk about later in the course will help you. So let's have a look at this and see what we're saying. So we're looking at about $25 there for the first ring light, which I would say would be available to most people. How about if we were to up the game a little bit? Now this one here is also a dedicated light. Now if you're doing any type of vlogging, you might want a smaller light such as that, which I use, and I can show you that light here on my camera. So it gives you an idea of exactly how it looks. Now these types of lights, even in daylight, you can use them to add a bit of pop. So it actually gives you that little bit of definition and fills in any shadows. So there's loads of ways of working this out, but I want to show you the options here first before we continue and start looking at lighting setup. Let's have a look at the next option. There is something a bit more fancy. Now RGB lights refers to red, green, blue. Actually has bulbs in there, or LEDs, which can change color. You can see behind me I actually have one positioned just there, and that shines a nice pink hue in my background, and I have a green one behind me as well. So all these little adjustments and lights allow you to play with how well and the depth of field in your view of your video. So let's have a look at another one and see how this progresses. So these are small lights, but straight away we're moving on to some big lights here, and these big lights are the ones I use for my standing desk studio and also as a main light up here. Diffusion is very important. You can add diffusion patterns on these to make it more soft. So these types of things where you're seeing this shadow, it will not happen. So there's purposely little things here that I want to show you, and as we adjust this, you'll see this get better and you'll understand how little adjustments help you a lot. So that was another type of light there, which is actually a bigger panel light. Now what else do we have? Got a few little lights. These are small lights that you can position around you to act as key lights. So for example, you have a key light that fills in, such as here. So if I turn a light off here now, you'll see that side of me has got all shady. The main key light is providing the main light. And if you have a top down setup, you'll see you want to have light that lights you in multiple ways. So that's a quick look at a few light options for you, and also giving you a budget and price in mind. So let's continue and see which one will be the best for you. Okay, so we've had a quick look there at the types of lights that are available. But the question here is, how many lights do you need? That's going to be depending on your type of video you're planning to do. I'm going to cover a few more sections later on the course, which will talk about vlogging, live streaming, video recording, or even beauty. So if you're doing different types of video, don't worry, I got you covered. Just keep watching. You'll see a number of sections broken down further on. So in terms of the number of lights that you need, we need to think about this in a nice way. Firstly, it's going to be important to know your budget. So we've got a few brackets broken out. We're going to look at a mid option and a low option. The low option is going to be under $100. The mid option is going to be under $500. And then if you're looking at a pro option, we're going to look at $4,000, kind of around that region. So that'll get you similar to what I've got here. However, right now, this is not a fully professional lighting setup. You'll see here I've got these shadows. So I'll show you how you get rid of these shadows, why I'm purposely showing you these shadows so you can see how they can be improved and how multiple lights help with that. So for example, do you want a 3-light setup? That would be the most standard type of lighting setup where they use it in cinematic type events. However, in mine, I've got more like 5 lighting setups, lights. The reason I've got that is I'm lighting my background separately to me. The lens I'm using right now, you may be aware in the previous courses, I was using a different lens. It was a 50mm 1.4, which I now have just here. And I will show you that lens here. That is a beautiful lens and it makes your background nice and blurry. It lets you pop from that. It's got a good depth of field. So we're talking about lenses right now. However, do make sure to check out the course I did about how to live stream. I talked about a camera, I talked about lenses to help you, and we briefly touched on lighting. And I promised you in that course that we will talk more about lighting, which is what this course is today. So we're going to say 3 lights today as part of our packages. So let's start looking at these and decide what would be good lights for your intended purpose. So that's giving you an overview of how to think about lighting. What you want to do, have a main light, have a secondary light which is filling you. If I turn this light off, you'll see that's without that light. And then I've got my background, which is set up previously. You can see the lightings are kind of all over the place. We've got a bit of pink and a bit of green. And then as an additional item, I do have a standing desk, which I can just turn on there. And then that turns on the secondary setup. But then that makes my background brighter, which is not as pleasing as having it dark. Because the idea here is the lights that you have, they need to be positioned in a way to make your subject stand out. In this case, it's me talking. So I want you to focus more on me than my background, which is why I would normally blur it out, which you can do by using lights to not overspill. We're going to talk about that in a later section. But next, let's start looking at the 3-point lighting setup that I'm talking about. We'll do an example and see what and how you can work that for your room. The best way to light your subject. So how does this fit in with what you're planning to do? We need to discuss this to find out what your aim is. So what is your setup? Let's use my setup as an example, and then I'll show you how I would adapt this for different situations. So firstly, we're going to keep it nice and simple. I am sitting behind a desk, just there. So my desk is going to be that big. So this is me placed here in the middle. My camera is here. We have 6 feet distance there. The further away your camera is, the more pleasing it looks if you have the correct lens and you zoom in. So number one, try and get your camera as further away as you can and zoom in, which gives you nice compression. Ideally, 50mm is a good amount of distance, but you need at least 6 or 7 feet of distance. If you have a smaller room, you might have to get your camera closer to you. This will affect how you light. Let's go back to our diagram. Let's zoom you in a bit so you can see that a bit more closely there. So what we have there is the camera, some distance, and then me all the way over there. So in my current situation, my lighting setup, I'll use colors for lights. I'll use green as my main light. That's number one. There's a big panel there. And that is actually tilting down. So let's draw it as it would be seen. That's how it is, but it's actually shining like this. So the light, which we'll do by blue, is hitting the desk and then bouncing back up. So what you're seeing here is being lit with one light. It's bouncing back up and that's filling me in as a light. So it's not as harsh as it could be. I don't have a softbox on that light. I'll show you overlays of exactly how it looks when it's actually set up properly. It takes a lot of time. So this is where you want to spend some time on this and get it right. So that light is basically filling me up. I'm getting some light on my face. However, you'll notice the camera is way back here. The light is way close here. So just literally touching distance, just there. Now, why is that, well, ideally the light needs to be as close as possible to me and as high as possible with diffused light, which means you're basically putting something in front of the light. Then the camera allows you to shoot at better settings. If you're shooting video and you're getting grainy video, it's because you don't have enough light. The more light you have, the camera will be able to shoot at lower settings, lower ISO. If you're not familiar with those, I've done a separate course explaining ISO, shutter speed and aperture, and that will help you, so check that out. Okay, so back to this. What else do we have? Well, now I have another light here, which I'll turn off, and you'll see instantly I got a bit darker there. Let's turn it back on and then make that a little bit brighter, so you can see now it's lit me up. You need to find the right balance so it's not too bright. It needs to be lower powered than your main light. So how does that fit into this? Well, let's put a green light. I have a little light here, and that shines and fills me there. So there we have one, there we have two. And then what else do we have? Well, we can close the green light. Behind me I have a shelf which is a further 6 feet behind me, back there, that. So in there, how many lights do I have? Well, I have a LED strip light which runs along the top and it shines light down, which is the green, which you can see up there. And then I have another light, which I'll do orange, which sits on the shelf in the background. It points up, which is a pinky color. So that pink color there, shining up. And then I have additional lights if I'm doing a bigger demonstration, which are two big panel lights. I'll put them out of shot. Oh, you can't see that. I'll put them out of shot there. That's because I have a standing desk over there. So when I'm live streaming, I can walk over to my standing desk and just continue the live stream and go on my standing desk, and those lights shine on me. And these LED lights here also continue along the back wall. There's another shelf there, and the lights shine down. When these lights are turned on, they can provide additional lighting, which I can show you right now. Let me turn this light off and let me turn them lights on. Those have turned on. You should have seen a slight difference there. That basically means there's additional light going on over there. The reason I turn them off is I don't want that light overspilling on the background, because look at that back. The pink, see that when they're turned off, it's more moody, which is nice and it draws attention to me. So there is your set, well, my setup, but let me draw attention to the main setup here. So this bit here is what you want to pay attention to. We've got 1, 2, 3 in the background, which are the LED lights, and then 4 for mood lighting. So right now we have a 4 light setup. You need to work with these individually. So what's the best way to light your subject? Find out how they're sitting, where they're sitting, will they be moving? All these little things would help you to define the light so that it works in multiple scenarios. Like for example, one of my lights is actually lighting me as well as my desk, my top down video. So that helps you there. So where to place your lights is key moments. Let me simplify that. Let me do you another. In the next segment, we're going to look at this simplified of where to place your lights. Just simple so you can see exactly what it is. Because here, that's a little bit complicated. So let's simplify this and help you. Because I want to make this in a way that if you're totally new to lighting and video, that it still helps you. So let's look at that next. Okay, so let's have a look at this in more detail and give you a simpler view. So what I'm going to do here is explain it with a 3-point light setup. We're going to keep it very simple now. So say for example, you're doing a video, you're doing a vlog of yourself, you're doing a video that needs to be like a makeup, I don't know, you're talking about product or something. So we're going to say, this is us. Now, if we're sitting here, the camera is here. The camera is pointing in our direction. So now, how do you want to position your lights? You want one light here, which shining there. So kind of an angle, similar to how I've got here. You want another. This is where you can get intuitive. You can actually get a light or you can get a reflector. If you get a reflector, put a reflector there, that light bounces off the reflector and comes back in and it fills you in, which would be like this type of situation. But if you put an actual light there at a lower power, that might be a better option. So if I was to put a little light here, shining inwards, this is how it would look. So this is that small light that I'm showing you there. Let's turn that on. See that little light now? So how I've got slight bit of definition. What basically happens is the camera sees you, and depending on how much light you got, that's what makes it look HD and 4K. If you have different colors of lighting, we'll talk about that, different hues of lighting, Kelvin numbers, that can get a bit complicated. All it basically means is the color of the light. You've got daylight, which is blue. You've got slightly orange light, which is like a different color temperature. So I've got that as a bit of orange. Looks like I've gone on holiday and I've got a tan. So that's your options for lighting. So there we've got one. There we've got two. Now the background. Do you want the background to be totally dark? Do you want the background to have a bit of definition? That's where you can put additional mood lights in the background. So if I've got a background there and add some little, LED lights, and they're further away from me, the camera will be focused on me, which makes the background blurry, out of depth of field, and those lights will look a bit more pleasing. So for example, if you look up here, see those couple of little LEDs, they're like almost like Christmas lights. They've got like a bit of sparkle. That's because the camera's bokeh, the aperture, which we'll talk about later on, kind of helps there. But there we're saying the light in the background is another option. So technically 1, 2 and a third cheap light would work well. That's a standard kind of option for you. And you can see that helps because it explains how it kind of works. Now in this example, if you were looking at doing a different shoot, you can basically get bigger lights, more powerful lights, move them out the way, and you've got more space to work. But luckily I do a lot of sit down in this setup anyway, so it actually works well for me. I have bigger lights in my standing setup where I have to show bigger items, which works differently. But we're going to show you this. We're going to break down how the lights are working through, and we'll next look at budgets, because it's all nice and well me telling you how amazing lights are, but how much can you spend on it? We look at the first option, which would be a low one. We look at something for under $100, and then after that we'll look at some of the options. So let's look at the next section for you. Budget lights for under 100. Okay, so as promised, we're going to look at a low budget option. So lighting for under $100. Now, who would this be good for? This would be good for people that are doing small setups like vlogging type situations, videos of yourself, maybe me even. I could technically get $100 worth of lighting and improve what we're doing here. Could I? Let's find out. I'll show you a few options right now. So firstly, I'm going to show you a number one light, which is a nice small light. The smaller the light, the more powerful it is, the harsher it actually is. So let's have a look at what I mean by this. So I'm going to turn this light on. It'll be a couple of settings. It'll be half power, and then it'll be full power. And you can see there, for a small light, it packs a bit of a punch. However, how can we use this to our advantage? We can do a few things. I'll show you this in the section about tips of improving the lights you already own. But let's look at pricing. So what we're saying here, we looked at a few options. So the one I'm showing you there is this light here. So you're looking at what, $22, $23 there. Now that light will allow you to have one light, and the best thing about it is you have a mount. So you can actually mount it to a tripod, which we need to also get either a tripod or a light stand. So here, let's tot that up. What are we saying price wise? So let's quickly add a few prices onto this. So this one will be, we'll call it 25 in case it's a difference in price. So that's number one. So what color shall I use? I'll use blue or green because it's like a budget option. So let's say $25. So we're starting at 25. We've got one light. What do we need next? Well, there's a few options that we can look at over here. So the next one here we've got is a ring light. So these are budget lights and they can work well for you. So what we'll do is we'll use a budget light and I'll explain how I would set these up. That we're looking at $25, $26 on that one. So okay, let's put $26 down on this. So now we're looking at close to $51. We've got about $49 to spend on another light. but we may need to spend some of that on lights and some of it on tripods or light stands or holders to hold the lights in place. So we need to spend these nicely. So we already got 2 lights, not bad. We did okay. We're looking at $51. I'll put all of these in the resources so you can actually check them out and look at the ones I was giving you examples of. So next we'll look at something a little bit more interesting. Now what I'm going to show you here is a bit of mood lighting. So this is actually a LED strip light, which you can strip, and it's got sticky backpack, like it's sticky, you can stick it. This is $24.99. So we've got another $24.99 to add on that. So we're looking at what, 50, 60, 70, $75.99, $75.99. And then the remainder we can get some light stands or holders for the change, which will bring us under $100. So that's not too bad. You've got 2 good lights and you've got some LED lights to get similar feel like here in the background that I've got. So that was your first option with a few examples to give you an idea of what you can do at a budget. How would I position them? Well, should I show you that now? Okay, let's just show that now. In the same example that we looked at here, that would be one light. I would make my ring light be placed here. The small light I'd put here, and the LEDs in the background. So that's our 3 lights for under $100. The only situation here is going to be the lights are not going to be very powerful. So because they're at a budget, you won't get a powerful light. And as you spend more money on lights, the quality of the light improves. So the colors are what they're intended to be. Also, some lights can flicker, so when you're recording it actually flickers, so you need to be careful and make sure you get video lights. But don't worry, I'm going to give you a full breakdown of options in the resources that you can download and check out for that. So that was a quick look at $100 and a rough setup there for you, which is imitating my setup to an extent. However, what else? How about if you got a bit more money? What would I say if you're looking at $500? If you're able to save a bit of money, will it make a difference? Let's have a look and find out. Okay, so next up we're looking at a slightly mid-range option. So if you've got close to $500, what could you get for that? Well, we'll have a look. So firstly, let's see. You already saw we looked at option 1 for under $100. I would get pretty much those lights apart from the ring light. I will replace the ring light with a better quality light because the fill light doesn't need to be as powerful. So if you remember me speaking about lights and the setup in the earlier stages, you'll know what I'm referring to. But let's have a look at what we would do. So I'll recap just to show you the options again. So for $500, we're looking at first light here, under $25. That I would still use as a fill light, like a little light to fill in, because I can put it quite close to me. It's very small, easy to use, easy to control. Put it in a low power setting so it's not overpowering. And then we're at 25. So let's quickly jot that down. So we've got 25. I'll put with the postage, it'll probably be that. And then I would also go for something like this. Now, why would I go for that? This is close to $55, $56. Let's call it 60 to make it easy maths. So that's 60 there. Why would I need that? Well, you'll notice in my background here, I have a light which has a different color and it pops up and it just makes the background a bit more interesting. The more colors you're able to add, not overkill, but enough to make it look interesting, like green. It's basically the RGB rule, red, green, blue. So I'm wearing a blue top. There's green in my background. There's red here. And that gives you that cinematic effect of all the color ranges in a video look. So if you notice big cinema productions, they'll put extra filters on and put them red, green, blue to make the video more high depth and HD and all the usual stuff. You're familiar with that. If not, check out a bit more about that. I might speak a bit more about it in the course. So that's another option. Is well worth a slight investment to get you a different feel. Because if you're making content, if you're doing any gaming content, if you're making vlogging, beauty content, you want to stand out from the crowd. If everybody else is doing video, you want to make something different that makes you look a bit better, basically. That's the ultimate goal. So working on that. Now, I think next up, we're going to look at, again, I'm going to look at the LED lights. The LED lights will be good for the background because they're a nice cheap option to give you a bit of versatility. So we're looking at about $25 there. So that's 25. We'll put that up there. So that makes that 50. We're at 110 so far. So we've got a healthy budget left over. There's loads of money there. So what next? Now this is where we're going to get a little bit investing in better lights. So these are a 3-set light. You're looking at $300, and these are controllable. They've got barn doors which we can extend with foam core cards to limit where the light spills over to, because the main thing is the light we're lighting ourselves with, we don't want that light in the background. So that's called overspill. So we want to concentrate each light to its specific area. I'm going to show you a clip turning each light off, so you'll actually see me in the dark. You'll see one light come on, you'll see 2 lights come on, you'll see 3 lights come on, and you'll see how they affect the image. When I'm setting up lighting, what I do, I'll talk to you about that in a second segment in the course. But in this range, the $500 there, we've got 300 there. So if I add that to our little tally so far, I've got 410. We've still got a bit of money left over, so we'll need tripods. So what does that mean? Well, that means light stands. So those extra lights we got, we need to keep them available so we can position them where we want to position them. So we're looking at another $24 there, so call that 25. We're looking at what, 435-ish. That is bringing us nicely over to soft boxes. These soft boxes will fit over these lights that we've got here, and they make a big difference. You're looking at about $15 per one, so you've got 3 of those, so you're looking at close to 500. We've reached our target. So we've got 500. We've got a number of light options. We've got a number of options to use a light in different ways. We've got soft boxes, which will eliminate this type of situation. You may not have noticed this, but they're actually shadowing. My mic is shadowing on me, which we don't want. We want smooth light. So that light with that softbox will work wonders. You'll see overlaying clips of this to help you explain what I'm talking about. But that is a light option for $500. Okay, so we talked about a few light options there for you, and the main thing that stands out is there's loads of light options out there. There's really expensive light options, there's really cheap light options, but the main thing that you need is light stands. So you need to be able to fit the light stands in your limited location. Not everybody has lots of space. You might want special things to help keep your lights off the ground, floor space, and you're rolling about, walking about. You don't want to be tripping over light stands. I've got a few things lined up here to give you a bit of extra help to get this set up. So this is a desk mount system. You can see there it clamps onto the desk and it allows you to attach a light on there. $24.99. Get a couple of those. You can actually clamp them to your desks, so you've got no tripods on the floor and the lights can be clipped onto them. If they're small, it's even easier. So that's one option to think about for light stands, which will help you to keep things off the ground and maintain good space and working environment. Let's have a look at something else. How about you get a couple of these? They're similar price to the one I showed you there. However, you get 2 and they're smaller stands, which if you have enough space on your desk, you can actually position on your desk in the corners, which well, putting your lights on top of them, great option. And in addition to that, there are additional things that if you want to get a bit fancy, if you're using a laptop, why not get this octopus type thing here? A selfie live floor stand. It actually has arms that clip on. You could put your laptop on there, you can roll it around, you could put your mobile phone on there, you could put a light on there. It's got these arms which are articulating arms, which are very good. They can be bought separately as well. There's a couple of things there to look at. So hopefully that helps you, but I'll give you the standard option, the normal tripod light stands such as that, which collapse down into small sizes. This does depend. Do you have space where you are? Are you planning to set up your lighting and leave it there? Have you got enough space to break it all down every time? Then it means you might have to pack it away. You want really lightweight, easy to pack away items. These are all collapsible. They go into a bag. You can store them easily. So that's covering light stands. I think next thing is going to be best way to power your lights for longer. So power, batteries, all that kind of stuff. Going to be a bit of a nightmare, isn't it? If you've got loads of batteries for charging, what about if you want to decide to make a video one day and the batteries are not charged? Well, these lights that I showed you have a number of extra options which are excellent. So let's look at that next. What is the best way to power your lights for longer? If you're at home, nice and easy, you can plug it into your main socket, you'll be fine. However, if you're doing a portable system or you want to take your lights out with you, what can you do to make it be powered for longer? Well, firstly, a number of the lights that we covered today in the budget options were rechargeable batteries, which also means you can plug them in and use them while they're plugged in. The batteries don't really matter anymore because the battery runs out, it's actually constantly being powered on. You can get additional batteries to add on to the lights that I showed you, but let's look at some of these battery powering options. The first thing's going to be nice and easy. This is a normal battery bank that you would have. So your lights USB powered, you plug them into this system and you've got a longer system for powering the lights. Now you need to consider the lights you've got and how long you want to power them for. This is 30,000 mAh. You're looking at possibly powering 2 lights for an hour, hour and a half at full settings, the small lights that we looked at. But what about if you want to get a bit more fancy and use bigger lights? There's a few different varying battery banks which actually have sockets on the side of them as well. And they've got displays, USB-C, and you can plug them in to obviously be charged a day in advance. You can have a couple of these. You can have one per light. You can plug multiple lights into one, depending on your budget. And as you can see, this varies. You got $100 there. The one we looked at before was only $30, but there are additional options there as well. So there's bigger options here, which will keep you going. But the ultimate, if you have big LED panels, you want something that can cope with the demand. So something like this would be great. You can see there's a nice little battery bank system. You can plug your laptop in there. You can plug your lights in there. If you're on the move, you've got a nice system there to keep you powered. And you can even plug in a solar panel to it. So when it comes to lighting and batteries, that's something that will be great if charge all your batteries you already have for the devices. But if you're a one-man band and you don't want to get disturbed changing batteries, you want to get something that will last the whole entire stream. So you've got your USB options. What I would personally do is I'll get a big battery bank and plug all the lights into that, and then I have a separate one for my laptop. Or if you're working on a budget, because that bigger light system is close to $300, you could probably get individual USB banks and power lights individually. You'll get an hour out of each one easily, and that's probably closer to $150. So that's a nice option for you. A couple of battery banks, which will be for your lower budget, or the bigger system for a bigger budget. Or ultimately, you can get yourself a generator and get that obviously fuel powered, and that can be in the background. But if audio is important, you don't want a big generator kicking off a fuss behind you. That's a few little options about battery powers. Like this small battery here, you can see it's battery powered, but I can plug in a type C and it actually continuously powers, which is what I do over here, which I can show you right now. You can see that light there plugged in. All I do is I just turn it on. Provided my computer's powered on, it's USB powered, then that allows me, I don't have to worry about the light powering off or losing power. And actually, I always turn it down because when it's on power charge, you get the full capacity of the lights. The best thing is the batteries give you a certain amount of power, but when you're plugged into a good source, then your lights actually have a bigger output, and that helps with your camera and the settings that we talked about earlier. So that gives you a nice overview of the battery options, the bank options. I will include some resources for you to check out these things I'm talking about to help you. But as always, I will be available in the Q&A section. So make sure you drop a question and I'll be sure to get back to you and help you. But what shall we do now? I think we'll look at the diffusing of lights and look at a few more options to help you to kind of round off this lighting situation for your live stream. And we'll also look at a few scenarios. So let's have a look at that next. What about cheap diffusers and reflectors? Are those any good? Well, that's actually a great point. I have used them in the past and they've given me very good results. What do I mean by that? Let me show you a few of these to let you know what I mean. So in this example, how it works is you can use a reflector such as this. There's actually a disc that opens up and it reflects some of the light. So in our examples, we talked about having a main light and reflecting some light back in. This would be a great option, but you can see the pricing there is similar to a small light. So would it be good? Well, it would be, because firstly, it doesn't need to be powered. So if you're outdoors, you can actually use the power of one light or the sun to help boost in any shadows or highlights that you're looking to do there. That's one option. There's a few more options there. You can get them in smaller sizes so they're easier to control. You can see that's a smaller size there. It gives you an example of that. And then you've got things like this. So if you're not looking at harsh lighting, you can get little diffusing panels like that where the light shines through to make it a lot more soft. That's very important to get rid of this harsh shadowing. You can see my hand there has a shadow on. It's very important to get these types of diffusing panels, and all these I'll put in the lower budget, but they're very easy to set up and they're good to give you a nice smooth light, which is very important in live streaming, video making, and light being diffused always looks nicer than harsh light like I've got today. A lot of this light is quite harsh to purposely show you how it can be looked when it's actually improved. So I'll show you some other clips that you will see as part of this to see what good lighting is, what not so good lighting is. Lighting can always be improved. So don't be afraid of practicing and trying lots of new things. Place it in different places, look at how it works and adjust it. It'll be an evolving thing. Every time you'll improve something and make it better and better for your next stream. So keep that in mind, and we'll summarize and I'll give you a few more tips about these lighting situations before we move on to the next section. Okay, so as promised in the course, I wanted to give you a view of this. So here you'll see I've switched off the front lights. I've moved over to my standing desk. That is the LED light which runs around the back that I mentioned in my diagram. Is a green light, and then I have my additional lights. I've put one light on there, and you can see one light just fills in behind me. So now you'll see right behind me there's a slight definition from the background. So this is early when I was setting up my standing desk, so it's actually not exactly how it looks now, but I'm giving you a behind the scenes look at how I test this. So one by one you'll see I've put a light on there. I'm pointing it towards the standing desk and checking how it affects my situation. There's that foam core I talked about that stops light overspilling. So right now there you can see one side is brighter than the other. Using a foam core, the light doesn't quite bounce back enough. These lights are not that powerful. So this is where I talked about the low budget lights and the high budget lights. So now what we'll do is we'll walk around and turn on some more lights to let you see exactly how it affects the setup. So here I'm in front of the camera. I've turned on my main light there. So you can see by turning on the main light, it allows you that slight extra pop. Now when I sit down, you will see me based on the background. And here we go now. Look how well that does. That is a 3-light system. So I'm showing you between the screens, the back's been lit and the front's been lit. So that gives you an inside view of lighting. I'll show you a few extra little clips here to help you understand how lighting helps, as well as a few extra little pops. So let's have a look at these. I'm also sharing some other photos here from early days when I was doing my lighting testing setup. Here you can see if you have budget lights, there will not be enough power, which means the images will be darker. So you'll have to compensate with the camera. So have a look at these images. These are extra bonus things I'm giving you to let you see everything takes time. And also, as you get better, things will improve. We all start with a similar setup, but as we understand light and get better, your video will start improving. So make sure to watch the rest of this course and learn these little tricks that I learned over the years to make your video even better. It has been excellent having you here. Thanks for joining me on this course. I'm hoping you found these sections helpful. I purposely broke these down into individual sections to get you the best information. Make sure you watch the ones that you're interested in. And the best thing is, I have another course designed to help you set up your live streaming camera, how to find a live streaming camera and how to set it up. So make sure you enroll in that course and check that out as well. Lighting is a massive thing. And in this course, you learned everything I could share about how to light your live stream as well as other options. In the comment section, and I aim to get back to you as soon as possible. So I'll see you on the next course.